do those 28 points of the plan, which Donald Trump is now insisting on, actually propose for ending the war? At the moment, this plan is only being published by the press, and here are a few points that are being discussed the most. Ukraine is being offered to give Russia the entire territory of Donbas, including the parts that are not currently occupied. The armed forces of Ukraine must withdraw from all areas of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, which will become a demilitarized zone. At the same time, Russia will pay some kind of rent for Donbas, but the legal right will remain with Ukraine. This was devised in the Kremlin to bypass the need for changes to Ukraine's constitution. Crimea, which has been annexed since 2014, is also to be recognized de facto as Russian, while the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia regions are to be divided between Russia and Ukraine along the current front line. There is also mention of a territorial exchange, but that's negligible compared to what Moscow wants to gain without fighting. The plan calls for Ukraine to abandon its pursuit of NATO membership and prohibits the deployment of foreign troops. A reduction of the Ukrainian armed forces by half, renunciation of long-range missiles in exchange for security guarantees from the United States, official recognition of the Russian language, restoration of the Moscow Church, an immediate ceasefire only after the agreement is signed, and a prisoner exchange in the all-for-all format. Elections in Ukraine must be held within 100 days after the agreement is signed. Full amnesty for all participants in the war. International sanctions on Russia are to be gradually lifted, and it will be returned to the G7. And the cherry on top is the economic part of the plan. Direct bribery of the White House by the Kremlin, the division of Russia's frozen assets in Europe. Yes, the authors of the OES plan were so brazen that people were left speechless. At the very least, high-ranking Europeans promised to find psychiatrists for the organizer of this document, Mr. Witkoff. American senators said that, in a conversation with them, Secretary of State Rubio called this plan a Russian wish list. Although Rubio himself denies this and assures that, in addition to the Russians, previous and current proposals from Ukraine have also been taken into account. Trump reportedly is no longer insisting that everything be signed by the American holiday of Thanksgiving, that is, by next Thursday. If things go well, the White House may extend the deadline, journalists quote him as saying. Ukraine will not give the enemy any reason to say that we do not want peace, that we are the ones disrupting the process, President Zelensky stated. This week was about surviving under enormous diplomatic pressure and searching for a way out of a dark room. So, the previously planned official trips provided some support in a situation where Trump would not even bring weapons for NATO, let alone for Ukraine's needs. TSN correspondent Iryna Kondrachuk traveled with the president to 4 European countries and brought back a bit of optimism.
4 countries in 4 days. How did Europeans receive Zelensky against the backdrop of a corruption scandal and an almost finalized peace plan between Russia and the USA? And also about the interests of each side and what awaits us next. Sunday morning, the presidential plane lands in Athens. Zelensky heads to a meeting with the president of Greece. People stopped along the road to raise Greek and Ukrainian flags in their hands. President Katerina Sakelaropoulou declares support for Ukraine's territorial integrity, assistance in reconstruction, and the return of Ukrainian children.
And notwithstanding the fact that Greece and Russia have had close ties, we cannot forgive the violation of borders and international law.
After the official meeting, the heads of state gas companies sign an agreement on an energy corridor from Greece to Ukraine. This is meant to cover part of the fuel lost from Ukrainian fields bombed by Russia.
The only possible way to get through this heating season is to import additional volumes. It's definitely a mix of gas from different sources, including American gas. The Greek side is providing us with credit support and offers deferred payment options.
Monday. A military base near Paris. The presidents of Ukraine and France sign a historic agreement to strengthen combat aviation with French Rafale fighter jets. It is likely that we will also pay for this with a reparations loan.
I believe that in the end, we will still be able to come to an agreement to push this issue through so that Russian assets are used specifically for the European defense package for Ukrainian production.
Volodymyr Zelensky also states that Ukraine will receive French radars, guided aerial bombs, 6 launchers, and 8 SAMP air defense systems. This is a new generation which, like the Patriot, will be able to shoot down ballistic missiles. France is also preparing an additional defense package to protect the skies by the end of the year.
We also jointly visited the headquarters of the multinational coalition forces in support of Ukraine. It has been operating for several weeks now under the command of France and the United Kingdom. These are security guarantees within the framework of the Coalition of the Willing. 60 planners in Paris are coordinating how to deploy forces away from the line of contact after the ceasefire.
And this is already one of Spain's defense companies. Here they showcase anti-drone systems, turrets, aerial and ground drones, long-range detection radars and munitions. What of this could end up on the Ukrainian front line? And what kind of support a country very far from the front can provide was discussed during a tête-à-tête meeting with King Felipe VI of Spain and later with Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. As a result, statements about a Spanish aid package are being made.
This package will include 300 million for weapons, 100 million for the Pearl program, and 215 million for products for the anti-drone and radar systems.
This includes, in particular, 40 missiles for air defense and at least 615 million euros for the purchase and development of weapons and support for the energy sector. Assisting Ukraine allows Spain to play a more systematic role in NATO and elevates its geopolitical status in Europe.
Spain is the first country among European Union members to announce that 20% of the credit it receives in the SAFE program will be allocated to joint production with Ukraine. In both countries, France and Spain, there was talk of joint production of drones and other types of weapons. So from this perspective, it was a very significant visit.
The president's European tour, as well as the new agreements between countries, were planned in advance. But all of this is happening against the backdrop of Russian advances on the front and an internal political crisis. And here everyone is very cautious.
They understand that no matter what the situation is, the collapse of the power vertical in Ukraine would lead to Ukraine's defeat.
Especially after the appearance of the peace plan by Vitkov and Dmitriev. American media had already hinted at its development and emergence last week, right after the publication of the Nabu tapes. To discuss the document, the US Special Representative was supposed to meet with the Ukrainian president in Turkey, according to Reuters. But at the last moment, Trump's envoy canceled the trip. The likely reason is being reported by the media. Zelensky is not interested in discussing such a version of the agreement and arrived with a Ukrainian-European perspective. Nevertheless, Zelensky's visit to Turkey is an important demonstration of Ukraine's willingness to negotiate under any circumstances and not fall into the narrative of Kyiv doesn't want peace. In the presidential palace, Erdogan spoke with Volodymyr Zelensky for more than 2 hours. So far, the Turkish president has gone no further than recognizing Ukraine's territorial integrity and expressing readiness to provide a platform for negotiations.
Turkey wants to be not just a platform for negotiations. Turkey wants to act as a mediator. I don't think Turkey will take Russia's side. They will also be looking for various compromise options.
So glad to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
While Zelensky was on his tour, American high-ranking officials arrived in Ukraine. Army Minister Dan Driscoll, who is also a classmate of US Vice President Jay Devens, and Chief of Staff General Randy George. And these are the highest-ranking Pentagon officials from the Trump presidency era in Kyiv. All to study the situation on the front from the inside and officially show Zelensky the same peace plan. Vitkova Dmitrieva. The Americans are counting on Kyiv being more lenient since it is now weakened, explains Serhiy Solodky, an analyst at the New Europe Center.
It cannot be ruled out that the relevant Russian players, have been whispering to Washington, to the United States, that now is the time, that a plan should be proposed which Kyiv will be forced to accept.
A traditional trap to make it look like it is Ukraine that is refusing diplomacy and not Russia in any way. And the intense pressure is, not least, connected to the fact that Ukrainian oil sanctions have reached their peak. In November, Russia lost the ability to fully use one of its key oil ports on the Black Sea. The terminal in Tuapse was hit by Ukrainian drones. The oil pipelines had to be shut down, and all this happened on the eve of the planned start of American sanctions against Russia's Rosneft and Lukoil. But they were postponed until December 13th. So the Vitkov-Dmitriev plan appeared at just the right time.
The Russians took advantage of the fact that Donald Trump is in dire need of foreign policy victories because the political and electoral situation there is very complicated.
Trump himself has been going through an internal scandal in recent weeks.
Right now, the personal approval rating of the American president has dropped significantly. Trump would also very much like to clearly show that he is able to fulfill the promises and commitments he made to the public. In the
US, the Epstein Files case has gained a lot of attention. The multimillionaire died in prison 6 years ago. But he didn't take all his secrets to the grave with him. Epstein became the organizer of sex with minors on a private island for the most influential people on the planet. The case materials also mention Donald Trump, though he himself denies these claims and calls them insinuations. He literally explodes when asked about the case. The latest incident became a new scandal. On board the plane, a Bloomberg journalist dared to ask about Epstein. And Trump lost his temper.
Calm down, you pig.
The apologies at the White House sounded strange. It's just that Trump is the most outspoken president. The names of many other famous people also appear there. For example, former British Prince Andrew and former US President Bill Clinton. Now, under pressure from Parliament and society, the publication ban has practically collapsed. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene, once one of Trump's closest supporters, has turned against him. So the appearance of the scandalous peace plan is very timely.
Given the leaks that have appeared in Western media, which concerned only Ukraine, it is most likely that the aim is to spark a discussion around this plan, and perhaps a discussion criticizing this plan.
November 27th is next Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, and the date by which the United States is demanding that Kyiv agree to their peace deal. This is reported by the Financial Times, citing Ukrainian high-ranking officials. Otherwise, they threaten to stop providing intelligence and even selling weapons through NATO. Reuters is now also reporting this, citing sources in the American administration. The president's address to the nation only proves that the situation is extremely dangerous, up to the point of losing our main ally. On the day when Americans carve the turkey, we have to decide our place. At the table or on the table?
And for as long as it takes 24/7, I will fight persistently to make absolutely certain that at least 2 points are never omitted from the plan. These are the dignity and freedom of Ukrainians.
In recent days, the president of Ukraine has held a series of consultations with European partners. In particular, it is known that the mayor put aside all his affairs and had a call with Trump. Zelensky is also expecting to have a conversation in the coming days. At the G20 summit, Europe coordinated its positions and sent them to the US as a counter-proposal to the 28 points. And tomorrow, the EU is gathering 27 leaders for a special summit on Ukraine, according to the head of the European Council. The shock has passed, but the threat has not disappeared. Iryna Kondrachuk, Yevhen Litvinenko, Andriy Romanok, and Natalia Stelmach. TSN Week 1+ Marathon. United News.